I'm going to create a technology that will actually help everybody else that has problems with counterfeiting and be able to be a node on that blockchain, because this is what happens.
What's the motivation? Because basically what we're saying about is that people come on and they verify, the blockchain verifies.
You're in the finance world, you live in the stocks and the market, you are going to be left behind. It's called Web3.
What do people learn from this show that they can act on it?
The word blockchain is exactly what it means. It means there's blocks of transactions that are linked one to the next one as a chain.
What's the motivation for people other than you and me who are in the transaction to be part of this verification process?
Cryptography has been around for thousands of years, and the Second World War was used to send messages. Now, there is a key that they use in security for Visa, MasterCard, and all that stuff.
They're just getting a reassurance that through Composite down the road, they won't be cheated, or is there a way they can get involved with you guys?
Welcome to the Future's Edge. I am Jim Urio. That's Bob Iacchino. Before we start, as always, I'd like to thank you guys for the unbelievable support you give us. All the retweets, the DMs, the feedback. It's humbling. We'd also like to thank our sponsors, Hardcore Italians. Go on the website, use our link. We don't know Noam very well. You have to use our code, which is FU is our code to get the 15% discount on Hardcore Italians. Okay, he's laughing. That's a good sign. So before I start the discussion, I want to tell you something that just happened to me about 20 minutes ago. Last night, we had a Zoom call book club with my nieces and my daughters. There's like 7 of us total on the call. And when it ended, my second daughter says to me, she goes, "Wow, you're pretty good at moderating a discussion." And I go, "You know that like I have 2 successful podcasts where that's all I do for the last 2 years." And in her words, "No, I didn't." So what are we supposed to even, what is the takeaway from that? I don't even know.
I don't know how we get to that generational gap.
So you're nothing. You know, my daughter is 21 and they're the generation of the phones and the little videos that disappear and whatever. We are considered an extinct species, all the white men.
Hold on, let me introduce you real quick because I'm excited to have you on the show. He is Noam Krasniansky, and I had to say it quick so I pronounced it right. And by the way, my name is Jim Urio, and people got about a 2% rate of getting that right on the first time. So I'm in that club of having a difficult name. He is the founder of Composite, pioneering platform that uses blockchain to protect IP and authenticate production. He's going to tell us more about it. You might have seen him on Shark Tank where he won a contract. Is that what you say? And Lori Greiner is your sponsor. Is that right?
Well, she became my partner more than a sponsor, and I won over 50,000 other companies. Yes.
That's fantastic. Now, just to be clear, I worked for CNBC for 20 years. I know those guys quite a bit. Kevin O'Leary and me are not on the best of terms. Lori Greiner seemed like she was cool, though, by the way. But I don't know. Kevin, he always treated me like we were in the Larry Kudlow bubble, and we'd always be on a show at the same time. I thought he always treated me like I was beneath him, and then he finally blocked me on Twitter, which I think is funny because I went after him once. But anyway, let's just concentrate on the fact that Lori Greiner is
good. When you have contention, it's good. It creates more interest than if you were friendly and lovey-lovey to each other and throwing flowers or whatever. You need that kind of content. And although he is a little prickly, right, I like him. I wanted him to be one of my partners, but I did not succeed because he gave me an absolute crappy deal.
Okay. We're kind of on the same page. Bob?
Yeah, so I want to ask you, one of the things that guys like myself, right, traditional finance guys, right, came up in the stock and bond markets and commodities markets, and then this thing called blockchain arrives, and this thing called Bitcoin arrives, and Jim and I are the kinds of guys that will trade anything that's moving. So we trade a lot of Bitcoin. We own a lot of Bitcoin. We both made money on Bitcoin.
Me too.
Early on, this is great, and you could explain this to me. Early on, what a lot of guys like myself would say, and you could probably, I did CNBC as well. I still do Fox Business and Fox News with Neil Cavuto a lot. you'll hear in earlier interviews, guys like myself saying, I love the blockchain technology. I'm just not sure about Bitcoin. And the guys who are saying that, I know from experience, don't really understand what the blockchain technology is. We just don't want to sound stupid on the interview.
No.
So now that I have sort of a base knowledge of it, what would you say is the thing that people miss the most? Sort of the easiest thing to explain that's so valuable about blockchain technology?
Okay, so it's a great question. I'm going to address it. But first things first, you say my name right. I'm Noam Krasniansky. I'm a blockchain expert because I had to learn the hard way. I had the same questions as you. I wanted to be someone like you. I wanted to be a stockbroker, right?
It's a Big Short or Wolf of
No,
Wall Street.
before with Gecko, right? The Gecko guy, right? I mean,
greed is good. Wall Street.
I wanted to be that so badly. And I ended up going into the world of product development, right? Anything, right? Like a cap or pen or whatever. I went into a product because as a child, I went to boarding school in England. I've lived in many places, and somebody was selling a product that was an infomercial product. One of the first infomercial products that came in the United States after deregulation of TV. I don't know if you know, before you didn't see infomercials, and that was DD7. And this guy used to throw money on the table. I used to have roommates, and he would throw 2,000 pounds, and it was 1991, I think, every day, 3,000 pounds. And and he said, today was, he would say with his Liverpoolian accent, today was shit. Today was shit. So after seeing all this money for like 2 or 3 weeks, I wanted that crappy days that he said he had, and I went in a different route, and that took me to the pitch world. I became a pitchman. I made my own products. I went eventually on television. I had a successful infomercial, and then September 11 hit, and boom, everything went to shit. I went bankrupt, and then I had to start again. Right? I started again. I started going to the flea markets to sell, etc., etc., and I reinvented myself. And people used to say, this is good, you have all this experience. And then I said, fuck experience. I can see you saying bad words here, so I can do it too. I want the money, right? But the truth, they were right about it. If you have made it before, you can make it again. You have more assurance of yourself. And it took away my cockiness. You know, when you're very successful early on and you're successful, you're a cocky bastard and nobody likes you, okay?
Me and Bobby, for sure.
Yeah, nobody likes you. Like, shut the fuck up. You know, nobody likes you. Have a little bit of humble pie. And that really helped me, right? So I went into products. And I went into fairs and shows. I was a professional pitchman, and I was at the top of my game. And then I went into a product called remember the chamois that went on TV? There was a guy, the chamois that went on TV. Do you remember?
Chamois, sure.
I know that guy. We're not friends, like you and Kevin. And they were selling for $20 or $30. Nobody could sell them could buy them in the US because all German factories were like, nobody could buy it. So I went to China and I developed a chamois because they didn't have it until it worked, because it has to use. And I went into all the 99-cent stores in the country. I went into over 30,000 stores. And that's what catapulted me into a new world, right? And the problem is when you're successful is that if you're not careful, your fall is worse than not just being a mediocre. Does that make sense? And so it took me from there, and I remember it was Dollar Tree, and they were selling incredible amounts, and we couldn't have them fast enough, and 20, 30 containers were coming, and 20 or 30 containers were going. It was like, and that was at 99 cents, okay? So you push from that. I created a product called Bambui and many others, right? Many other products, because I couldn't be a one company, one product, one customer company. And at that point that we were doing well, I brought up the bamboo washable paper towels, right? Which is what we brought into Shark Tank. We went to Shark Tank. I don't watch TV. And I remember being in Whole Foods, because that's where the target audience was. I was with my daughter. I was teaching her how to sell. She was like 10 or 11, and she was shy. And I wanted her to, you have to reward kids. I like to bring that entrepreneurial can be fostered, right? And that was my idea, because if you know how to sell anything, doesn't matter what happened in life, I know you're going to be okay. So So people say, you need to be on the Shark Tank. You need to. I said, why do I want to be on a tank full of sharks, right? We do a trade show, which is a natural food show in Anaheim, and somebody had, as seen on Shark Tank, my wife talked to them. We figured out that it was a show, and we applied for it, and we followed them, and we got selected. 50,000 people went into that year. We were one of the ones to be selected. Not normally, because we just sent a video in a phone like the one I am using right now, and we got selected. They say, doesn't mean you're gonna air, but we goes to the next process, and we went process by process until it was the time to go into the show. Have you guys seen the show? I couldn't miss it. It's an amazing show, and until they open the door and I go in that thing that it goes tan 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 tan. You know when they're walking?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was no music. So I was saying, oh my God, I cannot walk straight. So I started playing the song in my head. Tan tan, tan tan. You're walking, right? You're walking, and you're there, and then the sharks are there, and it hits you. Here you are. And well, the show was amazing for us because it brought us to a complete. Everybody knew what bamboo is. People would point at me and say, "Bamboo," right? And we made a deal with Lori Grenier, which I think was the best shark because she got us into QVC, which they said our product will never sell. You know how buyers are. Everybody doesn't know anything, for especially new things. They tend to push them away. And the first airing we did 8 minutes, we did like $300,000. It was like nuts. It was like everybody was buying it. Anyway, we had a great. It was great for us. But what happened? Success breeds envy. But more important, success brings people that are not imaginative copycats. Right? This is how we all started. Okay, and we had copycats coming out of the woodwork. And I'm going back to your question, Bobby, about blockchain.
Take your
I'm
time.
talking in blockchain there, but I want to give you an overall picture where I ended. And we started getting copy in Amazon, and we started even the suppliers that we were supplying product to, they will copy us because after 3 or 4 years of development of some sort of product with different uses, they start selling well. They say, oh, this sells well. We might as well copy it and put it beside you. And then they kick you off. Or the factories we were dealing with, they were copying us. And they were selling our brand or selling a copy of our brand. It was disgusting, right?
Mhm.
So there was no loyalty. Business is war, or The Art of War. You know that book?
Yep.
That book,
Sun
The
Tzu.
Art of War, is a whole bunch of bullshit. And I tell you that now as an older gentleman because if you go with that idea in business, you are going to end up with stomach aches and operations and cancer and all kinds of things. Because if you see your life as war, you don't win. You can make as much money in no business as war. But that's how they considered it. So I said, okay, I know what to do. I'm going to do patents. So the next product I did, you probably seen women know the hair ties that look like telephone wire. I have
Yeah.
5 patents on them. 5 patents. I said, this is it. I'm going to wait 3 years. I'll get the patents. I'll be rich. So the next thing I know, there's this huge companies copying my product. I sent a letter to them and they sue me. They sue me to invalidate my patents. And I have to defend myself against these people that are saying that my patent is not valid. And I said, this is nuts. So the next thing I said, then it depressed me totally. And I said, I need to do, and I discovered that the way to protect innovation, because it's really innovation, you're protecting entrepreneurship and innovation, because copying and selling products that somebody else created is not innovation. This is thievery. I created intellectual property. I created characters, about 120 something characters. This is one of them. They're called Unimos, and they're round like that because they were supposed to go with the hair tie and stuff. We created all kinds of packaging. And then I married, and that's when I started researching blockchain, and I married intellectual property with blockchain, and I started to merge them, right? I started to create collectibles that could have provenance. You know, like when you buy a good wine, you have to, so who bought it, who came, if it's real, who's the owner, who bought it afterwards, and if I'm buying the real one and it's not a copy. Because I don't know if you know, and this is what brought me to the world that opened up to me. It was like, boom, right? Like when you see that movie, those movies where the guys go, and suddenly everything goes slow and you see everything.
Mm-hmm.
Counterfeiting poses a significant threat to the global economy. I don't know if the estimate losses range from 1.7 to 4.5 trillion dollars. Everything from pharmaceuticals to cars, anything, right? Even organs counterfeited, okay? And And it came to the realization, and I created a whole technology in which I could marry my objects, my collectible, to the blockchain. Before NFTs came about, if you know a little bit about NFTs, I was already working on that. Then they came with a protocol, and then I think it was CryptoKitties in Canada. They did an amazing job, and I said, okay, we'll do it as an NFT, and I married those two, right? And I started working on that. And then at that point, I said, you know what? They're going to steal this from me. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to not be the one holding the bag. I'm going to create a technology that will actually help everybody else that has problems with counterfeiting and be able to be a node on that blockchain. Because this is what happens. There's a divergence happening right now. And you need to understand this if you're in the finance world, you live in the stocks and the market, you are going to be left behind. It's called Web3. Okay, Web3 is evolving at such high speed together with AI that is leaving everything behind. And if you don't jump in the bandwagon significantly, you are going to become obsolete like eBay became obsolete. Okay, so there's a divergence happening like this, right? It's exponentially. There are trillions of dollars. Let's say half a $1 trillion going into Web3, right? Everybody's jumping there, and Web2 is going in this direction, and eventually these guys are never going to be able to translate, and their profits are going to go to cuckoo. Just like we said that the young daughters didn't know that you had a blockchain because they live in a different world. So right. Composite is the solution, is the bridge between Web2 and Web3, because you see, when innovation comes, example, when the telephone came, they had central telephonic networks in companies, and they will switch, or in towns. Mm-hmm. And from then, it went to individuals. The same happened with the computers. IBM had huge computers, right, and all the stuff. They had a big thing, and then eventually became personal computers. Blockchain was the opposite. It was a technology that propped up individuals. Individuals adopted it, and organizations are late on the game. Does that make sense? Yeah. And because they dismissed it as just a trend, just a whatever, right? But it was created to protect your assets. It was and now I come into blockchain, okay? Because this is how I work. Blockchain was created with Bitcoin. Bitcoin was an idea in which, and I'm going to make it very simplistic, like an elevator pitch, okay? So please don't bear with me if I don't use difficult words.
I love it so far. Yeah.
Okay. So what happened? Okay. So let's start blockchain. The word blockchain is exactly what it means. It means there's blocks of transactions that are linked one to the next one as a chain. And the reason it's called crypto is a shortening for cryptography. Cryptography has been around for thousands of years, and the Second World War was used to send messages. So you had to have a key, like a different code, in order to decipher what the other side said. Now, there is a key that they use in security for Visa, MasterCard, and all that stuff, 256 letters or characters key. And they use that also in crypto. And what they do is that you have a whole message like this.
You see what's happening when he does this?
You see what's happening?
Thinks you're doing hearts.
They love it.
I love you're doing the heart.
We love it too.
Yeah. My brother does this, right? Anyway, why they did it is because you have a block, let's say, and at the end of the block, they put the key, and then they add another block. And that means with that cryptography, or crypto, like they say, you cannot change the block, because if all the characters are not exactly the same, it won't match. And what does it mean by matching? You understand what a network is. You have a central server. You have it's called clients in technology, where they connect to the server, and they can open and do and contact the server, all coming into the center processing power of a server. The same happens with organizations like banks, right? Everybody goes to the central banks, or clients go to the central banks. They control the information. So what the guy that created Bitcoin did is he created, let's say, like a computer's program in which there was no central organization. It was nodes that had the same, let's say, client or the same program all over, right? And they all had a ledger. All a blockchain is a ledger saying, Jim owes Bobby $10 and he has on account $100. Noam has $200 and owes Jim.
Why do you get more money than me? But anyway, go on.
Right. and the ledger is exactly the same in every single node. The final thing on a block. So what happens by being transparent and everybody be able to see it, it's very difficult to be a bad actor or to lie about something. So it brings about a non-trust in an environment of not trusting and allowing to trust and see what's going on so you can actually transact with other people. That is the purpose of blockchain. Secondary, the tokens or the coins they call inside this network is sort of like a casino chip. You know, you go to a casino and it means money and it only is worth money there, right? You take it to another casino, this doesn't work. So it's the same as a casino chip, and they use it to transact and to pay for transactions. And then what happened is someone like you, Bobby, that was on that likes trading, started buying and started selling and then it started going up in price, and it didn't serve the purpose that it was created for, which was to transfer value. It became value itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
totally.
There wasn't behind a central government or banking organization. It had more trust, because that's the problem. Money today, they call it fiat money because it's not backed by a hard gold or silver or anything like that. And when that happens, and it depends on the trust you have with the government. And secondary, the only reason fiat money has any is forcibly used by us is because, think about it, we have to pay our taxes in American dollars. Right? So they say, this is the current legal tender. And by the way, you have to pay us on that. So now you have to have dollars in order to pay your taxes. And then it goes and on and on. But it also is all based upon trust, right? So the idea of the blockchain in the first place was very simply to transfer value. I'll give you an example. Today, let's say I have a friend in New Zealand. I'm here in Florida. I don't know where you guys are at. Where are you guys at?
Chicago.
Florida.
Okay, and I want to send him $100, right? 100 American dollars. So I have to go in. I guess, in my account. I go to the bank. I do a wire. They charge me $35 for international. 45 is outrageous. Doesn't matter the amount. That's what they charge you. They look at my ID. They look at my account. They look at everything. They look that I'm not an international criminal if I'm over $5,000, and then they transfer that. That goes into a middle bank somewhere, which is a transactional bank. Then it goes to a bank in New Zealand. In New Zealand, they wait until they get it. Then they ask the person that is supposed to receive the money, that I send the money, that I paid for. They ask for their ID. They ask for this. They ask for the other. And as well, they charge them another $35. In actual fact, they charge 60% of a $100 bill. If it's 5,000, it's still $60. But the point is that it takes 5 or 6 days to do the transaction. You have to verify everything. You have to show who you are, and you have no control. So the idea of blockchain was be able, if I have a wallet and you have a wallet and you're in New Zealand or whatever you are, right? And I just I do a transaction, transfer within minutes. You have the coin that I had, which is Bitcoin. I give you a little piece, you have it, and it's done. There's no intermediaries. There's no well, there's fees because of mining now, right? But that's what it is. That's the system. But there's no arbitraries. There's no control. You control what you control. And that was the idea. That was the sole idea of blockchain and Bitcoin. Okay, that's how it started. Then it evolved. There was a guy called Vitalik. You heard of him?
Yeah.
Right? He was originally, I think, from Russia, or his dad was from Russia. They moved to Canada or something, and he was fascinated with Bitcoin. And he was writing a magazine about Bitcoin. I know everything about Bitcoin. And he was trying to tell, why don't we use Bitcoin not only to transfer value, but to transfer proof of work? And he came up with the idea that maybe the idea of proof of work, you do a certain things like in a contract, and when that happens, you transfer value, right? Or you transfer whatever. And then he got people that went with him. They loved the idea, and he did like I think an ITO, that's an initial token offering. He only got like $15 million. The first guy that put the most money, he's a billionaire thanks to this. Okay, and he created, and it was created, the stories in London where they were getting offices, and I met the guy that offered them Ethereum to pay for their their rental of the offices. I don't know, like 5,000 or 6,000 or 10,000 or whatever. And the guy, no, I said, I want real money. He also regrets it, right? And they work in America. There's somebody involved and all the stuff. And they created a foundation in Switzerland. And they made it a foundation specifically to make it a non-profit organization. And because you have to understand, when you create a blockchain, you centralize, right? You start centralized because you have to develop everything from a central point and then deploy it out and then let it run. And it runs in a beta mode, which means the testing mode, right? And by doing a foundation, it's a non-profit organization, so it's not for profit. And by doing it as a foundation and in Switzerland, it is not in the purview of the SEC. Because the SEC says, very simply, and it's very clear, there's a case they use for law with oranges or lemons in Florida, right? Where a guy sold the future lemons or oranges of his production, and then he was accused of attacked by the SEC because they said they were selling future profits. By doing that, it becomes, what do you call it, a transaction that is for the stock exchange. You understand what I'm saying, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. It's
Okay,
got to be regulated.
so then Ethereum got created. It grew incredibly, right? Everybody and their mother started putting everything, and that's how crypto started developing. And whoever bought crypto there made tons of money. That's the basis of crypto, right? Okay, now you have to understand one thing. These two protocols, or these two blockchains, they're called first layer. Do you understand what first layer is?
No, but
okay.
Yeah.
First layer is a very simple thing. You have to understand it in computers. When the internet started, it was an idea where they connected government or military computers with university computers, with all kinds of networks together, right? But in order for them to jive together, the hardware, somebody came up with the idea with a worldwide web or protocol, right? I think it was an Englishman. And with that,
I thought it was Mark Andreessen at the University of Illinois. No, when he came up with Netscape.
I am not.
That's what I
don't
thought.
have all the data, but I do know it was international work. Thank you. But the idea was that they will connect all these computers, and it was hardware, and that was considered the first layer of the internet. It's called first layer. Now, when you talk about email, remember AOL? You got mail when it was at the very beginning. That's a second layer. That's built up on that network. And everything after that was second layer. Google used to be second layer until they have so many computers. Now they are part of the first layer. So first layer is the basis, and then you have second layer. Now, the problem with blockchain is very similar, is that they don't have enough computer capacity to process a lot of transactions. So they really cannot take the transactions of the world of Web2 companies, because they become too expensive to do a transaction. You've seen when there's gluts and say, oh my God, Ethereum transaction, just to do a transaction is $600 or $30 or whatever, when there's a glut. And that's because they only have like 15,000 nodes, right? And when everybody wants to go on it, they don't have computer capacity. It's basically computer capacity on a decentralized scale. And now you understand when I say that, you know what that means in your mind. So with that problem, what happened is second layer solutions came to be, okay? And that's how you created layers where now you have Disney going with a company. I'm not going to say company names just not to give shout outs to people. But and what they did is, because they charge for every transaction, they will gather thousands of transactions and put them together, and then put it as one transaction in the blockchain, so that charge can be divided into thousands of transactions, so the transaction goes lower in price.
Would an example of that be something like the Lightning Network, for example?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's and they have many different Web2 solutions. They call them dApps, decentralized applications. Now, there's other people that made their own blockchains. You have like Flow in Canada, the guys that did the CryptoKitties, that did very well, and they do NBA NFTs, which is it's worth hundreds of billions of dollars, etc., etc. But the real problem is that they they mathematically and architecturally design a computer system that is designed not smartly. It was designed after machines, computer machines of the 1800s. So what happens when there's transactions, everybody's competing against each other. That's why they say they use so much energy, and there's a whole bunch of transactions. They all put them together, and they all competing against each other. And whoever does it first and gets it right, it wins. I won and I make money. But every other node, and that's 15,000 nodes for Ethereum or 60-something thousand nodes for Bitcoin, they use the same energy, but they didn't get through. And that is a complete waste of energy. And they say they do that for security. But that paradigm, how it works, is a lie. Okay, and we took that mathematically and infrastructurally, and Composite, what we created was different. The idea is that we use cooperation within all the nodes, and instead everybody competing against each other, we create subgroups, and we have a node that prepares the transactions to that subgroup, and when that subgroup does the same process where there's a leader and all the other ones confirm the transaction, that becomes a block. You don't need the whole network, and everybody gets paid. No, right? Everybody gets paid, and in every subgroup as well. So everybody wins as mining. And then what happens is, instead of having a blockchain that is linear, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? You have a blockchain that you have 1, and then the next one could be 4. Because they all operate depending how big the network is. Or you can have 64, or you can have 1,000, and it moves in this direction. So it moves vertically, and horizontally and vertically. By that becoming an actual dynamic solution. And our idea is not to have 15,000 nodes or 69,000, 65,000 nodes like Bitcoin. We intend to have 3 million nodes. We want to be the biggest, not centralized computer system in the world, where everybody that has a computer can contribute, because instead of there's some blockchains that they use $100,000 computers to be part of it. So the entry level for people to come in is almost impossible. It becomes, from the average, nobody can. But if you allow everybody to come in, and all you need is a computer that is sitting down because you're not using it, and it can be a node, and the more nodes you have, the better is for you, because you're actually putting your hardware to work, but you're making the network bigger and stronger, is better. And in Composite as well, and we finished the white paper, by the way. It took me about 3 years to write this. Okay, I wrote it with I have a brother, he's a mathematical genius, and I put the precepts, and we finished it like a couple of weeks ago, actually the last revision. An incredible piece of artwork and artwork. But I'll give you a little tidbit here. You know how when there's too many transactions, the price of the transaction goes up and up and up and up, and the wait period for it to go also goes up. When there was big things happening in the world of NFTs, right? Or the gorillas. Remember those gorillas that cost like $1 million or 300,000, and they sell them, and the transaction was. You know what? There's many. I did one. I failed dramatically, horribly. Okay, I admit it. But the point is that proves to you that the network is subpar. However, they're charging premium for you to do a transaction, so somebody will take it. So they're charging you more for doing a bad job. And also, it's part of the idea that they use sometimes, that when you don't have enough resources, if you charge more, less people are going to use the resources. So it will lower the actual demand, allowing for an equilibrium. But that's stupid. Production-wise, it's stupid. So in our network, what we're going to do when we have too many transactions for the nodes we have, we're going to lower the price, which is going to bring more transactions. And then the people that had the nodes that the price got lowered, we're going to encourage them to open other nodes. So then capacity will go up. And once the ratio changes and the capacity goes up, now the amount of transactions coming in is not overwhelming, then the price will come up on that. And everybody that has a node will make a ton more money. And everybody that wants to do transactions will have a lot more processing power. So that sort of sounds like counterintuitive, but things like that we've done in our blockchain Composite. The idea of composite is it was created because of counterfeiting. And it means composite because you can actually have a digital object and it can have many layers. You can have an object. Let's say we have a new definition for object. Our object is something that has layers, right? It could be a digital object and it can have information. It can have provenance. It can have ownership. And it can even have a physical form. So in basic part, we're taking the idea of the human form. Some people don't agree that you have a spirit. Some people agree you have a spirit. It's beside the point of this case. But we are saying that an object is many parts, and that object in composite can have an actual physical object, and you can marry. That's why it's called composite, right? You can actually add it to any object in the world. Example: I have a wife and she likes Louis Vuittons. Okay, right. I couldn't care less, right? But she likes Louis Vuitton. She's less into, but let's say and she wants to buy a second-hand Louis Vuitton, and she goes to eBay, right, which is a place to buy. And these guys say these are legitimate. This is it. This is how it looks. This is a serial number, and all you can do is trust it, and you get it, and then they look fantastic. But then you take it to Louis Vuitton and it says this is a counterfeit, and they have ways of knowing, right? So how do you protect yourself if you want to buy a secondary market thing to buy an original product? Not everybody wants originals. Some people want to buy copies, but this is part of the problem, right? So imagine now if Louis Vuitton put a label there, like a security label. By the way, I studied for 2 years how to print money. I know everything about it. And it's not that I want to become a counterfeit making money, right? I contract companies in Europe, in Asia, all over the world. And I learned about security that you can touch, security that you have to use something to see through, and then also called forensic security. And we will put that into a label, which is going to call a K-link, which is part of Composite, and it will be different for any object. Like, for example, a cap. Have you ever noticed when they sell you a cap that is original, they put a hologram?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah?
Right.
Completely copyable. I could put a fake, no problem. But this label will be unfake. But as well, this label will also have representation on the blockchain. We'll have an NFT, let's say, married to this, and there will be like a certificate of ownership on the blockchain that everybody can see. So, and it will be owned, let's say, by the company. So when the company owns it, let's say I sell it to you, Jim, you become a member, right? And then we send this to you, and we also transfer the ownership. So now you have proof that it's yours.
So tell me this, what's the motivation? Because basically what we're saying about is that people come on and they verify, the blockchain verifies. What's the motivation for people other than you and me who are in the transaction to be part of this verification process? If that's not a good question, just tell me it's not a good question.
It's a fantastic question.
Oh, good.
It's a fantastic question. Well, think about it. By doing this technology and allowing companies to, now, in the blockchain, you have different nodes that do verifications. You have nodes to come in. You have nodes that are like the clerk nodes. But you also have a super node that a company can buy. And they can create their network of products within this open network. So it's two networks working together. So now, let's say I make Ferrari parts. Let's say I'm Ferrari, right? You know, Ferrari has the biggest counterfeit in the world. You know that for 1973, I don't know, they had 200 cars that they produced, but if you look, it shows 500 cars that have been transacted.
Wow.
The other ones are counterfeited, right? So let's say Ferrari decides now that every part will have a link, and when they sell this, they sell it as them, they transfer the part, it is shown on the blockchain so anybody can confirm it, and it shows that it's mine. Now, what happens if in the process somebody is buying something and because they need to transfer it, they click it, they do a clicky, sorry, I call it clicky, they scan the QR code, and it shows that this guy that is selling me the part is not actually the owner. Is an owner is in Orange County in California. It actually gives you provenance of the object. It shows where it comes from. It shows where it goes. It shows that they could be a counterfeit because it could be that the one in California is still there, but somebody copied the label and they cannot transfer it because it has to be transferred from the person that owns the object. So that is for adults. I'll show it to you for kids. This is the simplest explanation. Did you ever collected anything when you were at school?
Yeah.
Baseball cards.
Okay.
Comic books.
Comic book. I'm into both. Okay. So, and some people had Pokemon. So you have a kid. And this is created for kids, not for adults. Understand this. I'm giving this technology to kids. Imagine a kid brings, let's say, Pokemon cards, and there's two kids fighting, and the teacher comes and says, and one is crying and punched the other and said, he stole my Pokemon card, my dad gave me, and the other one looks like an angel and said, I never did anything. He's saying that it's his. And the more violent one gets sent to the, told off. I don't know how they do it here, but they send you to, your parents come and all this stuff. And there's no way of proving that the other guy stole his card. Not even the parents can prove it. Now imagine if you buy a collectible, let's say you buy all these cards, and the company, because you are a member, transfer all this to you, and you have it on your phone that you're the owner of this card, and you say, and you say to the teacher, that's my card. But I'll prove it to you. Look, this is my feature. I'm Jim here, and I'm gonna click it, and it says, oh, it's owned by Jim, blah blah blah, and that immediately proves, it gives you proof, and it's impossible to steal, it's impossible to counterfeit, and it allows the actual customers to become the enforcers because they don't want to get jilted. Does that make sense? They don't want to be counterfeit. And
so here's my question, Noam.
Yeah, go ahead.
You have to be at the Composite, I mean, not you personally. You have to be at the originator's site, correct? Obviously, it's a vast resale market that currently exists for multiple products, and there's multiple counterfeits. You just mentioned Ferrari. My wife is aware of the Louis Vuitton one. You have to be at the originator point, right? Composite won't help. Well, Composite won't help with the 200 Ferrari 1973s that are already out there, right?
Well, this is the thing. This is sort of like, that game that is for kids, that it has blocks. I forget what it's called. That kids are
Lego.
No, but they have it now on the phone, right? That they build.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I know what you're talking about.
We're three white older men don't know what they're talking about.
Yeah, surprise, right. Yeah.
Anyway,
it's like Tetris, but it's not Tetris.
It's not Tetris, but they build things. So the idea of Composite is to become like an infrastructure, right? Where people can build. It's designed for entrepreneurs. It's designed for artists, for creators, for companies, so they can put their own node there, right? And they can have whatever they release part of this network that will prove authenticity and will allow them also to make tremendous amounts of money on the secondary market, something I haven't discussed. Because they will become the node that verifies that all their objects, let's call them objects, right, or products or art or whatever, right, will be able to verify that they're genuine and will be able to be like an escrow company and transfer monies from people who are buying. And because the blockchain allows you, every transaction that they do on the secondary market, they can get a royalty up to 25% if they want it. So it actually allows them to control the secondary market, to make sure that stays true, and to make tremendous amounts of money. But these can be applied to anything. I'll give you an example. Today with AI, they can take your picture, if you are in video form, and you guys are, and somebody could make you do things that are unworthy of you, and they can
very little is unworthy of us.
But go ahead.
Oh yeah, I know Facebook groups of people that they get blackmailed because they put them in compromising positions in a porn thing, right? And there's nothing you can do about it. Or even voice, today somebody can talk like Morgan Friedman, and it's not him talking, right? And how do you protect your reputation, right? How do you protect your reputation? So this technology allows for private individuals. There could be someone that has a node that has an app or dApp that can do this, where you can put it on your feed, whatever you release out that has that label. It already exists for the movie companies, but it's only for industry. But imagine you have that connected to the blockchain, and if somebody brings that out, you say, well, Does he have my composite link there? No, I didn't say that. I'm sorry, right? And it could protect voice, could protect video, could protect image, could protect anything. So to answer your question, which was why will a regular person want this? I think that was the question, right?
Yep.
Why will they use it? Because when you are going to buy something that you've saved money to, you want to buy the real one. You want to make
Yeah.
sure that even if it's a second-hand one, it's a real one. Unless you don't care, right? Then you don't need that. Let's talk about the elephant in the room. Who is the biggest organization that works day and night to copy every product in the world?
China.
Thank you. Okay. This is how it started for me, right?
Right.
I started with simple cloths to different things that I done, and they don't care. They don't care. It is their duty. It is written on their law that if they request that you need to get this information, they will do corporate espionage, right? That's how their products get better. They don't do it through research and discovery. They do it through counterfeiting or to copying or whatever. It's their business model, right? Now the problem is that attacks the basic principle of an economy of what brings innovation. Entrepreneurs, artists, um, businesses, people that have brands, people that spend hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars in research and discovery can be completely crushed because of these horrible counterfeits. I'm telling you, 1.7 trillion to 4.5 trillion, it affects everybody. It's something that affects everybody and nobody says anything about it. So the purpose of Composite is to protect innovation, entrepreneurship, enterprise, and people that create things, and for them to be able to earn what they deserve because they're the ones that invested in it, and for copycats not to be able to. And that is for the people that want to buy the original. There's always going to be someone that's going to want to buy a copy, right?
Sure.
But it looks bad. It looks bad when it will allow companies also to make more money, because let's say you was talking about Louis Vuitton. Somebody does buy a fake Louis Vuitton and he has a fake K link, and somebody can come and click it and see and see that that doesn't have one. And then it is a matter of pride, especially with luxury items.
I can imagine a situation where friends at dinner are clicking each other's purses. It's like, yours is fake, yours is real. So knowing our audience is thinking, okay, I want to get involved. I want to be a node. What do people learn from this show that they can act on? Are they just getting a reassurance that through Composite down the road, they won't be cheated? Or is there a way they can get involved with you guys?
Well, Composite, we finished writing the paper, right, which was really important. The reason I'm here in your show, for example, is to make it known, because one of the most important things when you have a blockchain is adoption. Our next president of the United States is said that anybody that has their crypto based in the United States will not, you heard, I'm sure you know about it. I don't know, I need to verify that 100%, but what I understand is that they won't be charged capital gains on their gains, right? So originally our idea is to open a foundation in Switzerland, but if we could do it here, if it's I think it will be better. But the idea is to open a foundation and work at getting people involved with tokens, right? Originally, that cannot be done in the United States because the SEC says if you're an American citizen or American company and you do that, then you really are a product of the stock market, right? When it's not. So our idea is to do that. That's our first stage. So I don't have a path forward unless there's people that are from abroad that are not Americans. When we do a foundation, I am willing people to send me communications to be part of this, because we need as many people supporting it. Then the next process is once we do our first offering, is to start doing the process, right? And creating all the, because the white paper gives you the overall picture, right? Then we need to write a yellow paper and start the programming process, and then deploying the nodes. And when the nodes come out and deploying, people can have a node, can have 10, can have 100. That we want people to have lots of nodes, and they can be part of the network. And then, but today, if you had a company, for example, that wanted to utilize this technology now, we could do it. We have an IT department that is working on that, and we could create all the things that we're saying outside of Composite to start. And when Composite gets released, they will have a node on the network. But we can actually do this now, all the whole solution, and then transfer them to Composite. They will be the first ones, and they will get it for really cheap, comparable once the network is out. And people that go into Composite and they want to buy tokens and all that stuff when there is an offering and stuff, they also can do really well with this. But we're not looking. They call it investment, but this is not really an investment. It's because these are utilitarian. But another way they can do it is they could. We have the House of Unimos, which is the first company that will be doing this, where I told you the process where we were at, where I created all these objects that are married with in the blockchain, where we created a whole. Okay, I might as well tell you. We're going to be doing high-end backpacks for kids. We already talked with the Louis Vuitton company that does the Louis Vuitton fabric, and we have Italian guys that do luxury bags for all the luxury people. I cannot say names, and we are going to be doing bags like an NFT, because they will be digitally printed, right? Each of them will be different, and we're going to do a small run of like about 250, which is going to be sold specifically to kids or mothers with very high end. And we're going to do like a very couture release. And that I spent over $1.5 million in this enterprise, and now I opened that as a startup. That's
so it's
just
like a proof of work for Composite, right?
Exactly. Because sometimes once I start using the suppliers of these big corporations that do bags and they see how it works, believe me, they don't want to be left behind. I mean, I'm dealing with a $1 billion company that makes fabric for these big companies, and they don't want to be left behind, because if you don't innovate, you die. It's innovation death. And so that's where we're going. You can find me online. I'm Noam Krasniansky. You'll see me there. I have what I did in Shark Tank Bambui. I have many things going on. You can go to composite.org. The white paper will be released very soon, and you can read it if you want to. It's very, very smart. I'm very happy with the algorithms and the mathematics of how to make it safe and secure. It's really top notch. It's the next generation of blockchain.
This has been an amazing conversation. I really, really appreciate your time. Sorry, Jim, I had to leave like that. You guys reach out to Noam if you have any questions at all about the product, anything he's doing, any of his other companies. He seems like a very available person. This is the first time we're meeting. We hope we have you on again. Please reach out to us again as you get closer and closer. We'd love to have you back on, talk more about this. And to you guys watching, we can't do without you. You know what Jim and I are trying to do. He talks about it every week. I'm going to try and fill his shoes right here. I'm going to be terrible at it. But Jim and I both come from legacy media. We think they're terrible. We think they don't allow real conversations. They don't allow full conversations. You heard Noam. He was able to tell his whole story, go into how his product works and how his process works, and then tell you that he's available to talk to you again. You can't get that on legacy media. Please visit our sponsor, Hardcore Italians, funny shirts. That's what they do. They do funny shirts making fun of Italians, of which Jim and I are both. So I have an Italian shirt that, remember the shirts when we were young, they said Gucci across? I have one that says gnocchi, but it's the Gucci logo, which I really, really love. Our code gets you 15% off. That's Hardcore Italian /FU. So go ahead and use that. Noam, any last words you want to say to the audience here?
Blockchain is not for nerds, okay? Blockchain is cool. It is the future, and that's part of Web3. And I try to explain it as simple as possible. I hope you understood what I said. I'm going to be I would love to do a TED Talk, actually. I think because a lot of people don't know what blockchain is.
Right.
But if you have any questions or you're interested on this technology, it is the future. And everybody claims they know everything. Thank you. That's all. All I can say is thank you. And I look forward to speaking with you again, Bobby.
Yeah, it'll definitely happen. Thanks to you guys. And please subscribe, hit the like button wherever you're at, subscribe to us wherever you're watching. We're trying to grow this thing. We're having really good early success. Hopefully the momentum continues. This has been the Future's Edge. We will see you in the next show.